Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, sitting in for Frank Holtzhauser this evening. Joining us, as always, my co-host, cohort, compatriot, Jason Rainwater. How you doing tonight, Jason?
Fine, David.
Nice accent there. We're going a little Finn Balor on us, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I thought that was a pretty awesome.
That's a good match.
It was a good match. I thought it was just a good live network event altogether.
It was. Talking about the WWE, there was the Japanese event that they had, Beast in the East, Brock Lesnar returning to Japan. But the big headliner was actually Kevin Owens dropping the title to Finn Balor in the semi-main event.
Did you know that Big Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, was the head agent for that entire show?
Oh, good for him.
And he ran the whole thing, and he was the one that came up with the traditional Japanese title fight where they throw the streamers and hand out the flyers. And I was like, that's a nice touch.
Good
That's
for
a
him.
nice touch.
That's a nice redeeming factor.
Yeah, right.
We haven't really heard from old Johnny Laurinaitis
Well,
for a while.
he had that job no one really wanted, you know.
Other than that, though, I really haven't paid much attention to wrestling for a little while.
No, I watched NXT last night, the replay from Wednesday, and it wasn't anything fantastic. I mean, the Vaudevillains are now the number one contenders for the tag team titles.
I did see that. I fast forwarded through most of NXT, but it's kind of surprising.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm having a good week. I mean,
Good.
Certain trains haven't derailed. I haven't been fired from State Fair bad, but
That's a nice little inside joke there.
if you're in the theater community, you'll
Right,
only
theater
get that.
community aficionados, Mike Nixon, if you're out there, you'll understand that perfectly.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're having a good week. You got the new house that you're
Yeah.
moving into. That's good.
Yeah, it's coming together. Like, I got the front room painted. The other room I have a first coat on, and then we're trying to strip paint off of the wood trim, which, I obviously mistaken thought, I could do this in 2 days. Well, it's been 2 weeks, and I've gotten 2.5 windows done.
I sound like my sister's contractor on her house.
Yeah. It was like, I just need more supplies. It needs more.
This guy shows up late. He shows up late. He's finishing their basement down there. He shows up late. His excuse is he goes over to a neighbor who he sees outside to make sure that this neighbor, knows why he's showing up late, just in case information gets relayed to my sister. He's like, yeah, they were having dollar hot dogs over at Menards, so I was hanging out there. Of course.
Right, that's perfect.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
I think the excuse, like, he just showed up late would be better than saying, they had dollar hot dogs at Menards.
Right.
Which
Or
is
I
far
drank
more
a whole
important.
thing of prune juice and I was detained for a a bit. That's a valid excuse.
It's a valid excuse.
That's
I
my
don't
Saturday morning anymore. I'm an old man.
No.
Maddie's looking at me like, what? Well, it's true, Maddie. This is the Truth Network, and I want nothing but the truth on this network.
I better get going then.
Yeah. I'm drinking Neurosonic prune juice, so we're going to have fun tonight. I feel so disorganized and disjointed tonight, so we'll see how this one goes. So just the other day, stock market shuts down for 4 hours due to a glitch.
Tech glitch.
Kevin Cooney calls it a router issue while reading the news on KCCI.
Didn't they know to fix a router, you're supposed to unplug it, wait 10 seconds, and then plug it back in?
Don't have a backup router?
I was like thinking in that way. What was funny is, like, I saw some of the coverage from work. So we have a TV running that constantly runs the stock market off CNBC or whatever channel we have it on that's following it. And the guy's literally walking around to every TV screen. He's like, look, nothing's moving. There's a tick. Maybe it's back. No, that's just, as you can see, all the screens have stopped.
Right.
Like, this is top-notch reporting. Please continue to point at TV screens and tell me why they don't work.
Yeah, everybody seemed to be running around at a tizzy. They didn't know what was going on, what was, what to do or anything like that. It's very odd. Just hours before the stock exchange went down, it was very interesting that a similar computer glitch also took down United Airlines. And then you had the New York Stock Exchange go down. And then during that outage, the Wall Street Journal website also went down. So 3 major things going down due to technical glitches.
Yeah, hundreds of flights were canceled. I believe 60 flights were grounded.
Well, I
and
heard the
delayed.
entire fleet was grounded for United Airlines for a short time.
Okay. Yeah, if that's at least from the last report that I read, that was what was cut. They had 60 flights that were completely canceled, or over 100 flights that were completely canceled, 60 flights that were delayed until the tech glitch was fixed. But it was funny was that it was the tech glitch at the stock exchange. When that was fixed was when flights resumed. Not when the tech glitch at United got fixed.
So the question is, we obviously know that the tech glitch is just it's a cover story. It was more than a glitch. The question is, what could it have been? I think there were some interesting things going on during or right before that tech glitch occurred. Anybody who was watching international markets saw China's stock market was in free fall, basically.
Tanked.
They've stepped in and said that a lot of major stocks in China, you are no longer able to sell those stocks. You can buy stocks, but you can't sell them. So their economy is tanking. They basically lost like 40% of their value in the past week. I also heard a report. This was on CNN during the tech glitch outage. They reported on this, and then they've scrubbed it from their website. But apparently, as traders were coming in to the New York Stock Exchange on, what was it, Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah, Wednesday. As they were coming in on Wednesday, the New York Stock Exchange officials were handing traders a list of what they were calling problematic stocks. And then we've got this tech glitch. So it's obviously not a glitch. It has to be. I've narrowed it down to three different things that it could be. It's either. There was also. Sorry, I need to back up a little bit. Websites that track cyber attacks coming into the United States were showing a massive amount of cyber attacks coming in from China and a few from Russia as well during this thing. So it could be that this was taken down due to a cyber attack. What do you think about that?
Well, with China's stock tanking as it was, I mean, it could be them counterbalancing that. They're like, well, losing 40% of our GDP. Okay, well, cyber attack, we know that we can do it. We'll bring down the New York Stock Exchange. That'll suspend trading across the world.
Right.
You know, until we can figure out a way to cover up what was going on our shores. And then Japan can be the saving grace of the world because when they open up their trading. It's possible.
It's possible. The thing is, that doesn't explain the concurrent outages with the Wall Street Journal and with United Airlines. Why would those two go down? China really wouldn't, if they're doing tit for tat, if they're thinking that there's, market shenanigans going on the U.S. side, if they're going tit for tat, then why would they bring down those other two things as well?
And it could be Russia. It could also be Russia. It could be both Russia and China launching these cyber attacks. Could be North Korea, which I think
I would discount.
I would discount it. I just throw that out there as an idea, but it could be a cyber attack that led to the suspending of the stock exchange, and also which would be a coverage for their loss on their stocks. Now, it could be that what they did caused the stock fall too, if they did do a cyber attack into the stock exchange or into the United or whatnot. I think it's kind of strange that there's these three concurrent attacks, and they're very different things. They're finance, travel, and
that's amazing. It's finance, travel, and information.
Yes.
I am so glad that you hit that point, because that was actually on the. Just so you know, I came in. That's why we started late. I came in late. I was held up at work a little bit, and then traffic was bad, so we have not had a chance to talk. So that's very, very. I get floored and excited sometimes when you're bringing up the exact things that I'm thinking, and we haven't talked about this whatsoever beforehand. Yes, you're absolutely right. It should be very interesting to anybody looking at this that they brought down three things: something from the financial sector, they brought down something from the information sector, and they brought down something from the travel sector. So it really feels like it's a test run for pulling the plug on travel, information, and finances. Maybe it's a test to see what the reaction would be if people suddenly did not have access to their bank account, were not able to travel anywhere, and were not able to get any information as to what was going on. I mean, it could be a test run for that.
And it could be. Well, those are the three things that you have to stop when you enact a martial law event. You have to stop the flow of cash. You have to stop the ability for people to leave the area that they're in. And you have to stop the ability to them to receive information in regards to what's going on.
Bingo.
You know, if you shut down information, guess what? You get one source that tells you what's going on. And it's usually propaganda. It's always propaganda.
It's always propaganda. There you go. That's the router story.
Exactly.
Oh, it was a router that went out. They had no backups.
I'm like,
Derpy, derpy, derp.
seriously, you telling me you didn't have anything better than a Linksys there at the stock exchange? Please.
Yeah, we had a Belkin. So no, that's you've skipped right ahead on my slow build up to that point.
Sorry, I usually like
Darn you and your perceptive nature, Jason Rainwater.
Usually I just shotgun blasted in the face. Like, this is what you're talking about.
I guess the other theory would be that this was an action taken as a desperate measure by the plunge protection team. And for those who don't know, this is a team that comes in if the markets are failing. Then the plunge protection comes in and artificially starts buying stock in order to prop up the markets. So being unable to do that and stop the free fall that they saw coming, they just decided to pull the plug until they could properly manipulate it. And that's what Gerald Celente wrote about. This was picked up by King World News. He was saying that he thought it was an attempt to stop a crash in U.S. markets, which is plausible. But that still doesn't explain why did the Wall Street Journal go down, which I'm willing to concede that may have gone down due to people massively trying to go onto that website to get information. It seems like a pretty it's too much of a coincidence to discount.
I get it. I mean, people look to the Wall Street Journal as the paper for the stock exchange. It's
right.
Like, that's where you go to find out all information. But in reality,
CNBC didn't go down.
Yeah, CNBC didn't go down. And really, you can go to any news information site and find that.
Right.
It's not like the Wall Street Journal has a monopoly on it. It says we're the only one that you can come to find out stock exchange information.
Right. So that's why it does seem like more of a targeted thing that occurred. So yeah, that's why I kind of discount that this was an action by the plunge protection team, because you've got, if it were just the New York Stock Exchange that went down, I'd say, okay, that's probably, if you look at Occam's razor, that's the simplest solution, that it was the plunge protection team pulling the plug, saving a complete market disaster. But yeah, with the two others going down at the same time, virtually.
And the Wall Street Journal is circulated in New York. They're headquartered there in New York. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then the stock exchange goes down. Then you have flights going down in United. To me, that looks like a textbook run of shutting down a community.
Exactly.
And a very large one.
And guess what's starting on July 15th? That whole Jade Helm exercise that we've covered in the past, which is basically training U.S. troops on U.S. soil to engage U.S. citizens. Yep. Mastering the human domain is what it's called. So it should be very, very alarming to anybody who's really wanting to look into this. It should be very alarming that you've got Jade Helm starting right on the heels of this going on. Another thing that I almost forgot about, and that makes me think that the theory of a test run is the most likely. I printed out this story from ABC News. I printed this out at 12:28 p.m.
They're on your side.
Exactly. 12:28 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday. This was a story. Let's see. It was a down day on Wall Street, but not just in the usual sense. A software glitch that left traders able to buy and sell only about half the listed stocks on the New York Stock Exchange ultimately brought the exchange to a halt for more than an hour this morning. Additional bugs kept some stocks off the board until mid-afternoon. The closure slowed or shut down trading on other exchanges as well, but it wasn't the only stumble. It wasn't only the stumble in the trading that left overall markets performance weak. Poor earnings news from tech firms, yada, yada, yada. When it was over, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was off 114 points, closing at 10,977. The exchange opened normally at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That would be 8:30 Central. But the software glitch halted trades at 10:10 a.m. Eastern. That would be 9:10 a.m. Central. Trading of most stocks resumed at 11:35 a.m. Eastern, although some companies were not trading until nearly 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That would be 1:30 p.m. Central. But I printed this out 12:28 Central, a full hour before the time that said that they were trading again. This was written in the past tense, but in the future. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that this was pre-planned. This was pre-written, pre-planned, and so that means that the event that is surrounding it is pre-planned as well.
That's terrifying.
It should be terrifying.
I mean, so at 12:30, we already have a statement let out. Most trading didn't resume until 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
So they were already planning ahead that this was okay.
Right.
We've done our test.
And they didn't even get the times right. Because it opened actually at I think more around 1:30 or 2 p.m. our time.
I'm sorry. There's a few times where I just have to sit back.
It leaves you speechless. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is, as Jason pointed out, this is a test run. This is a test run for pulling the plug on the financial markets for the financial reset, which so many people are saying is going to occur September or October of this year. Get ready. I can't stress that enough. We're coming up on the first break. This is Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
The only way we come to know the Saviorship of Jesus Christ is by bowing and acknowledging that He is Lord and King over all the earth.
Jesus Christ died on a cross, paid the penalty for our sin, and by repenting of our sin and accepting Him by faith, what He did for us, we are forgiven.
Salvation is not a combination of faith and works. Salvation is by faith alone in God.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk, joined by Jason Rainwater. We've been talking about the stock market glitch, the test run for the complete collapse of the financial markets, which is perhaps planned for later this year. I don't know, but those are the rumors that are going around. But what we do know is that this was no glitch. This was a, like Jason pointed out, this is a test run. But let's switch gears a little bit. Next up on the list that I hastily threw together at about 3 p.m. today,
Boom.
or 4 p.m. today, was congratulations, America, there were no terror attacks on July 4th, despite all the hype pushed out by the mainstream propagandist news media and our own government.
Yeah. Do you mean that President Obama wasn't on the Tonight Show telling us to pack?
Exactly.
And, prepare.
Peter King, who
so
was
much going
practically, having a climax on television during the Megyn Kelly fiasco show on Fox News.
Exactly. I read one article where there's like, well, there wasn't any terrorist attack. This is because the FBI and many government agencies stopped 12 to 15 possible terrorist plots.
Right. The plots that they cooked up themselves, which is admitted by the New York Times. The New York Times themselves say that all the terror plots that have been stopped in the past 10 years were cooked up by the FBI themselves.
And then when asked for details, they're like, well, we can't go into too much detail regarding this since it's still highly classified for us. Family.
Would you forget about it and we'll release a little something?
Here's my thing. I get that you don't want your failures to be broadcast, but if you are actually going to go out and say that you've stopped 12 to 15 terrorist plots, I swear that would be something that you would just be shouting from the rafters.
Exactly.
Like, look how great we are. And then people are like, yeah, the FBI really knows what they're doing.
If you stopped a legitimate one, you're absolutely right.
If you stopped a legitimate one, you would shout to the rafters. When they got bin Laden, they were on everything. They could have been just like what they're now. Well, we foiled it. We can't talk about it.
And when they got bin Laden.
Yeah, they got bin Laden. But you know what I'm saying is this is how it is. It's like, well, we stopped 12 to 15. That's why everyone should have been prepared. Well, I wasn't prepared. I was shooting off fireworks in a backyard and had one almost come over the top of my head. So if that's a terrorist plot they foiled, good on them. It saved me.
That sounds like fun. I watched the most patriotic movie that I could find in my collection, and that, of course, was and I just think it is the most patriotic movie that's ever been released. And that, of course, was Team America, World Police.
Ah, yes.
Fine movie. Anyway, the FBI, the head of the FBI, James Comey, says that, well, this type of thing, it's the new normal now. Prepare to get pounded over the head with terror. FBI head James Comey said Thursday that the Bureau now considers the heightened state of terror alerts and increased police presence in major cities enacted for the July 4th holiday as the new normal. Speaking with reporters at FBI headquarters, Comey said that the bulletins issued by the FBI and Department of Homeland Security warning of possible terror activity timed to the holiday were prompted by the overall threat posed by ISIS and other extremists, commenting, this is sort of the new normal. Comey warned that dozens of suspected ISIS recruits inside the U.S. have gone dark and are eluding FBI surveillance by using encrypted communications. Comey used the same term as he and Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates used in testimony before members of Congress one day previously concerning alleged security risks posed by the government's limited investigative capabilities. The FBI director also claimed, without presenting any evidence, that federal authorities prevented numerous terror plots that were to be timed around July 4th, which were designed by extremists to kill people in the United States. I wish I had an echo effect for that. Kill people in the United States. I do believe our work disrupted efforts to kill people, likely in connection with July 4th, Comey told reporters without detailing who or what the intended targets were. Comey declared that more than 10 people have been arrested in the U.S. in the past month on charges related to their association with ISIS, with some specifically planning to strike on July 4th. Yet, meanwhile, while they hype up the ISIS threat, which I don't discount the ISIS threat because there are really wacky Muslim extremists that we have wound up who want to kill everybody in their path, and they will go and kill everybody as soon as they get the go-ahead. But if we were really legitimately concerned about these extremists, we wouldn't have the borders wide open so they can sneak on in. They don't even have to sneak. As reporter James O'Keefe pointed out in an investigative report that he did, he came across the border dressed as Osama bin Laden, and he was A-OK. He was detained, though, when he was coming back from Mexico. He was detained by Border Patrol because they were upset with the report that he did. So backlash for political speech, but we're going to leave the borders wide open. Yeah, and people like Peter King were on Fox News hyping up the fear level, yet he's not called a terrorist. for trying to get people afraid.
Oh, no. You know, fear mongers are not terrorists.
Right.
They're playing to your common, the most basic common denominator.
I mean, he only used fear as a weapon to make a political point, which is the very definition of terrorism.
Exactly. Don't you know when you celebrate the 4th of July that you're under constant threat by your own government because they have these myriad of forces marching around in cities and towns and whatnot. And quite honestly, they cause more of a disruption than supposed ISIS forces that are coming across the borders. I'm sorry. When I was in the service, and I remember watching a video talking about terrorism that's in our own borders, I was seeing videos from people that were in Lawrence, Kansas. I go, if you know they're in Lawrence, Kansas, why have you not gone in and taken care of them in Lawrence, Kansas?
Exactly.
But then you can't give specific detail when you're talking to reporters. You're saying, well, no, I'm not going to give specific details, but we stopped all these terrorist threats, a multitude of terrorist threats coming against you. And the FBI, 80% of their job is paperwork. They do mostly security clearance checks, and they're always doing background checks. So for him to be like, we're putting all our efforts out there to stop this threat, I go, BS. It's not what the FBI does.
They're preparing to come after patriot groups and things like that, people who are usually pro-law enforcement.
And it's the FBI does that, and then the mainstream media just tags along with it. Where they go out and they say, this is what libertarians believe. I was watching an episode of Numbers or something like that, or what have you, and they surrounded this libertarian camp. When they're like, what libertarians believe is that they can do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting other people. But what they were portraying these people as being in these encampments with nothing but weapons. And if anybody comes around them, they're going to harm anyone that gets away in their way of life and whatnot.
Right, and that's pre-programming the American populace. And then when Jade Helm goes live, and they're actually doing extraction, because that's one of the aspects, as we pointed out on previous shows, they were training for extractions of political dissidents in Florida. People will be acclimated to that. You've got all these drills that have gone on in the past couple of years in major cities, late-night drills of Black Hawk helicopters hovering over major city skyscrapers and troops repelling off of them, scaring people half to death with flashbang grenades late at night. That's what they're acclimating people for, is for extraction of what the administration considers to be political adversaries. But here, I think, is the big point of what the increased threat was. The FBI quietly used the baseless July 4th terror threat to establish command centers. Although the government admits that it has absolutely no credible evidence that ISIS or anybody else plans to attack the United States over the 4th of July, the FBI has moved to establish command centers around the United States. This is a story from July 2nd.
Well, of course ISIS hasn't received orders. The CIA hasn't told them to do it yet.
Exactly.
This is the constant garbage that comes across, that we have to think of ISIS as this threat. We created ISIS.
Exactly.
We propped them up to be the ones that we are fearful of. And when we've reached a point where we are hiding away in our homes, ISIS is going to come in. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be led by our own government, led by the CIA. They are basically a CIA ghost operation. That's exactly what they are. And for us to be constantly told there's a threat against us, we're going to fight against them. I go, you weren't fighting against them when they were in Syria. You were helping them.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden we have to do a 180 and we're wondering why they're attacking us. I thought they were the good guys.
Well, yeah, they were the good guys, as sold to us by John McCain and Lindsey Boytoy Graham, who went over there and met with the guy who became the ISIS leader. So basically they went over and set up the whole dang operation. But hey, those guys are fine, and Lindsey Graham is a fine presidential candidate, and we should be sober and vote for Jeb Bush, yada, yada. The command centers will integrate local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, so officials can gauge the threat level and respond quickly, according to Fox News. Additionally, the move appears to be an effort to engage in pre-crime tactics. Another law enforcement source told Fox the FBI's strategy has shifted towards getting ISIS supporters off the streets as soon as possible, given that it's hard to predict when one might go operational.
So these command posts need to go away, because that's the ISIS supporter.
Exactly. So that's what it's all about. It's increasing the threat fusion centers, and now they're operational command centers. So this is more of a move to federalize the police force and bring it under the purview of the FBI. Moreover, the command centers and so-called fusion centers around the country are routinely used to monitor political activists, not suspected terrorists. The centers often work hand in hand with the private sector to undermine the First Amendment rights of American citizens. So, yeah, that's really what the terror threat was all about, was getting an excuse to establish these command centers. The FBI and Homeland Security are 0 for 41 now in predicting imminent terror attacks on the U.S. Some of the hits that they have said were going to happen were, let's see here. February 2002, they said Hollywood studios might be under threat. In May of 2002, the Statue of Liberty. June 2002, there might be attacks around July 4th. Let's see here.
So, Independence, the Statue of Liberty, and the Golden Girl set were the three major things that they protected.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I'm glad they saved the Golden Girl set. I mean, until Disney destroyed it. But keep going.
Skipping ahead a few years, here's a good hit. September 2012, be aware of increased threat of attacks over because of Islamic anger over an anti-Islamic movie that came out. It led to protests in Benghazi, which turned violent, which we knew was an entire fabrication. Yeah, so, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
But, I mean, you look at that list and you talk about it. What it's doing is people are like, well, it's just crying wolf. Well, exactly what's crying wolf, because then you become apathetic to it. So when it really does happen, your reaction is like, oh, like us all those other times, they were really protecting us. So I'm not going to second guess that again.
Right. They have to keep hitting it. They have to keep pounding the nail on the head, and eventually they're going to have to actually do something in order to keep the attention on the attention of the American people. But, Maddie, are we coming up on break number 2? We are coming up on break number 2. You're watching Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. We're going to hit a little bit more on this when we come back, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, welcome back to FranklySpeakingLive.com. I should have been watching the clock. Anyway, we are talking. Let me give out the phone number. I completely forgot to do that. I was talking about prune juice, though.
Have you done this before?
No, never. First time.
I'm following your lead around here.
Is this the microphone? Hello.
I can't be the responsible one, Daddy.
You have to be. You have to be. If you want to give us a call, 244-0077. Is that really how my hair looks tonight?
Yeah, it's looking good. Don't be
244-0077. If you're inside Des Moines, if you're outside Des Moines, it's 515-244.
He has the ideals of a libertarian, but the vanity of a liberal.
I do. I really do. So we're talking about how there amazingly, somehow, some way, were no terror attacks over the July 4th holiday, despite the fear-mongering that was perpetrated by members of the mainstream media and members of the congressional sect, like Congressman Peter King. You had raised...
Don't call him Congressman. Just call him Peter King.
Peter King.
I get it that he was elected to be in Congress, but it's Peter King.
Chosen New York oligarch, Peter King. You would raise the point that, hey, ISIS is funded by the U.S., which we've hit many times in this show. Story came out on the 8th of July. The Pentagon recruits 60 moderate Syrian rebels and pays, guess how much they paid to train each one of them?
$6 million.
Close, actually. $9 million. $9 million. Last year, the Pentagon went before a congressional hearing and said it would need $500 million to train moderate Syrian rebels fighting to overthrow the government of Bashir al-Assad.
And when we say moderate, let's not think like, oh, a moderate Republican or like...
Right.
Like,
these are the people who became ISIS.
Yes.
The money would go to 2,300 rebels who were supposedly vetted and not connected to Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, or ISIS. In fact, as this outlet has reported on numerous occasions, virtually all of the rebels in Syria have sworn allegiance to ISIS and other jihadist groups. Opposition only really exists in hotel lobbies and in the minds of Western diplomats, writes Ben Reynolds. This is simply... Sorry, let me get this stabilized here. There is simply no real separation between moderate rebel groups and hardline Salafists allied with Al-Qaeda. On Tuesday, it was reported that despite the influx of money and the commitment to overthrow the al-Assad government in Damascus, the United States found only 60 out of the promised 2,300 that were ready to flock to us to overthrow Assad in Syria. Only 60 opposition fighters not aligned with the jihadists were able to be found. So, doing the math, the $500 million set aside for the effort translates to around $9 million for each rebel. How do I sign up for that? $9 million for each one that's not affiliated with ISIS.
It's literally the size of the Wolverines from Red Dawn. That's,
exactly.
Like, you're telling me out of the 3,000 that you interviewed, you could only vet it down to 60. And I'm sure like their vetting process were like, are you associated with the Al-Qaeda? No. Okay.
You promise to be good?
You promise to be good? Because we will give you $9 million.
You like puppies?
Like, come on.
I like puppies.
Okay. When we let you go in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, make sure you get good ones. Get good ones.
So, as you can see, we're funding this ISIS threat that we're using to scare the American people into allowing even greater control and federalization of police forces around the country, and also into allowing absolute breaking of the Constitution through illegal NSA spying and other things like that. Chris Christie, the fat Jabba the Hutt governor of New York and now presidential candidate number 551, who is running for the Republican nomination, he said that Americans should blame Rand Paul for any terror attacks that haven't happened yet. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie slammed fellow presidential candidate Rand Paul, stating that if there is another terrorist attack on U.S. soil, everyone should blame Paul because he has made the country weaker. What Rand Paul has done to the country what Rand Paul has done to make the country weaker and more vulnerable is a terrible thing, Christie told Morning Joe viewers. That's Morning Joe, hosted by Joe Scarborough and the daughter of one of the most evil men that has ever walked the face of the earth, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Mika Brzezinski.
Horrible, horrible woman.
Idiot
Absolutely
woman.
horrible.
I mean, she's an absolute dunderhead.
She doesn't know what she reads news. They try to pretend that she is some sort of pundit. I go, you read news.
Exactly. I spout off about how dumb Megyn Kelly is, and she's dumb.
Megyn Kelly is pretty dumb.
But
Mika,
she's Mensa compared to Mika.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Mika is only there. At least Megyn Kelly went to journalism school and held a job as a reporter for like 5 months before somebody said, "Hey, her legs look great on TV. Let's get her on."
Megyn Kelly is a BLT sandwich. Like, it sounds good. It's not the best, but Mika's like this old decrepit cheese sandwich that you left in the back corner of a refrigerator that you just kind of like, oh, maybe I should probably eat that.
Megyn's there because of her looks, and that's fine.
Yeah.
She's competent enough, but she's just a mouthpiece. But Mika's there because of nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway,
I know we would diverge on that one.
Christie specifically cited Paul's stance against illegal, I'm noting that, illegal NSA surveillance and his battle against the renewal of the Patriot Act, adding that for him to raise money off of it is disgraceful. As the only guy who used the Patriot Act in this race, as a former prosecutor, we're going to look back on this, and he should be in front of hearings, in front of Congress, if there's another attack. Not the director of the FBI or the director of the CIA, the governor said, slamming Rand Paul's defense of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which Chris Christie wants to swear an oath of allegiance to in order to be the CEO of this country. Christie also suggested that the only way for the U.S. to defeat ISIS is to arm our allies, which we've done a great job of doing, as outlined in the previous article. It's to arm our allies, train them, and it's their fight. Well, we've been arming ISIS, training ISIS, and getting ready to turn ISIS loose, so you can blame people like Rand Paul, who say that we should follow the Constitution instead of disintegrating into a banana republic. And it's even worse at that. We're disintegrating into a absolute totalitarian dictatorship.
We are. Anyway, we are following the Marxist path. And as much as people are like, oh, no, that could never happen, I go, it is. There's a reason free societies fall into a totalitarian regime, is because we allow it, because we sit there and we applaud things like this. We think that, he's doing good. They're taking care of our enemies. We're going to be protected by them. Mm-hmm. It's okay if we suspend our right to not have search and seizure against us illegally. It's okay if they spy on us because they're doing something that's really good.
Right.
I mean, it's a little bit of evil for the greater good. Now, the thing is that little bit of evil blossoms and it becomes bigger, and then we're creating our own enemies within our own borders, and then our people that we elect band together into a one-party system, and then the people that become evil are the libertarians, the ones who speak of freedom and speak of your God-given right to have liberty, to be able to live your life without the fear and the fear-mongering that comes along with it. But they become the enemy. They become the ones that become the targets. That's why people always want to attack Rand Paul, Ron Paul, or any type of libertarian candidate, because the idea that if government backed away and we became a limited government society again, they're like, well, you can't do that. We have to protect you. Government's there to protect you. They can't protect you if they're limited. I think there were plenty of non-terrorist attacks a long time ago where we had no government interference.
Yeah. If you want to protect us, why don't you close down the borders? Why don't you deport the illegal aliens? And I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but he's right. There's an inordinate amount of illegal immigrants who are coming into this country. They're just bad people. And a statistic came out, this was reported by Breitbart, I think it's like 37%, I believe, of all violent federal sentences are enacted on illegal immigrants. They're passed on illegal immigrants. So you've got this influx of people who are committing an inordinate amount of crimes, but they're not the ones.
You can't speak of that.
We can't speak of that.
It's racist.
No, that's racist.
It's racist. It's racist for you to say that they're criminals, even though they're committing crime. It's racist for you to want to put them in jail, even though they committed felonies. It's racist to ask of them to have identification, to vote. That's all racist. You don't understand. America is the most racist country in the world, David.
Well, that's what MTV is trying to tell us.
Like, our privilege is so high. We need to be set into our place. And I hear stuff like that, and I'm sorry. My father is a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Mm-hmm. All right, and my grandfather legally immigrated from Canada. Mm-hmm. He did it legally. I have an uncle who lives down in Norwalk who legally immigrated into the United States. I go, these are the people who go through these steps. They're not coming over here to commit crime, but you can't compare that to other people who come over here and are right off the bat committing a crime by being here illegally.
Yeah,
regardless of what you think. And if the government did exactly what it was supposed to do in the Constitution, which was to protect the borders, regulate commerce, and stay out of everybody's way, they do create a taxation system, but that taxation system is very limited. Mm-hmm. It's only to raise enough money to continue government. That's what it's supposed to do. If it did those things, we would be protected. The problem is we're creating our own problems because we have to create our own. The government has to create our own problems. That's why ISIS is in the borders. It's why we trained Saddam Hussein at Lackland Air Force Base.
Yep.
It's why we trained Vietnamese insurgents here in the United States at army bases. We just continue to create every bit of enemy that we have because we're like, well, we have to continue the fear, because otherwise we can't grow.
Right.
We can't grow government.
And then they want to call Rand Paul and Ron Paul isolationists because they have this crazy idea of, hey, we should follow the Constitution. We should follow what the Founding Fathers wrote when they were setting up the country about how, hey, we should trade with other nations. We should be friendly with other nations, but we should not entangle ourselves with other nations. Just stay out of it. And but that's an isolationist view. I mean, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous to call it an isolationist view.
Well, FDR changed all that. Remember, we are the world's superpower. We have a responsibility to protect everybody else. And in thinking that way, we dominate our own freedoms here. We have, people will take our money, but it doesn't mean they respect our sovereignty.
Sure.
They'll be like, I remember when I went to Bahrain, I was stationed out there. We paid the Bahraini king like $750 million. But anytime he was in country, we were not allowed to be seen. If he landed at the only airport that they had, which is where we were stationed at, I had to run and hide in some sort of building so he didn't see one American soldier. I go, they'll take our money. Doesn't mean they respect anything about us, and that's just because we've created this thing where like we are going to come in and we're going to make sure that you are taken care of and you have the American dream. Well, guess what? Those places don't have the American dream. They are 2,000 to 3,000 years older than we are. They have been through far more than we ever can be. We can't come in and be like, oh, I don't understand why you can't be like us. Exactly.
And it's funny that we're spending all this money. You said $750 million to the Bahrain king. $500 million to train people who turn out to be ISIS fighters there. And then when the financial collapse comes, they're going to sell us. They're going to say, well, hey, your bank deposit's shut down. The banks are going to have to take a haircut on the amount of money that you have in there. They're going to have to take a certain percentage. That's just how it's going to have to be in order to pay off the collapse that's occurred. I mean, this is your fault. They're gonna push that on us, just like everything that's happening in Greece is going to happen here.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be government led. Because when recessions happen, it's because government is trying too hard to fix it. It's trying to create tax cuts. Oh, well, we'll give people a rebate. We'll try to do this. I
don't even think they're trying to fix it anymore. I think they're trying to wreck it.
You can't fix it. It doesn't matter because they can say fix or wreck it or whatnot. It just doesn't matter. If it's government intervention and trying something, it always increases the time that we're in a recession. The Great Depression would have only lasted 1 or 2 years, if not because of New Deal plans that came into place and increased it another 10, 15 years. Whether it's them saying we're trying to fix it or they're coming in and wrecking it, it happens all the same way.
Do you think, switching gears a little bit, do you think the insane amount of Republican candidates that are running this year, do you think that is a way to try and dilute the message of Rand Paul? When you're putting so many fish in the water, it's hard for anyone to stand out.
You want to know what I think?
Frankly speaking.
Frankly speaking. I'm frankly speaking here. It is diluting the message of Rand Paul, and it is to also increase the message of Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
I don't care what any of the goes. Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz has fallen so far off the map for me. I was at one time like, oh yeah, I could see him as viable. Now, just gone. Anybody who defends the Patriot Act has no place with me.
I know he's so seesaw.
He is.
And there's a lot of good rhetoric that he says, but then there's, it's just like 50-50.
Exactly.
It's hard to know where that guy's swinging. But I'd still trust him over Hillary,
But here's the thing is if you look at polls that have come out, Rand Paul leads Hillary Clinton in every poll. He is the only one that can defeat her.
And they don't want
that. They can't do that because Rand Paul is a libertarian. And if you post anything, and I've had it. I've had it before where I put things up where Rand Paul said like, hey, we're like no government interference in your personal lives or anything like that. And I am constantly attacked. They're like, oh, I can't believe you support him because of his stance on this. I go, what does it? I was like, did you not see what he said? He doesn't want government regulating any type of marriage. Like, well, how are they going to handle this contract people are doing? I go, something different than what we're doing now. I go, why don't people think of new ideas? That's what I really think that when true libertarian or classic liberals, as we all are, we go to find those new ideas. But you can't do that anymore. It's either one way or the other. It's either black or white. You better figure it out because there's no gray area or trying to find out some new solution.
Right. It's they want the two sides, the two teams. They want people to be on one team, so they have that. So they engage the tribal instincts of people.
Exactly.
And then they want the people. I've talked about this on previous shows where you think about the power structure as a pyramid. So you got the oligarchs at the top. They're touching. They work very, very hand in hand with each other. And then when you go down a little bit on the power structure, they get further and further apart. And then you get the masses who are at the base of the pyramid, who are all the way out here. And that's where they are rolling down the political football issues like gay marriage and things like that. I'm dropping my bottle here. Gay marriage and things like that to keep us far apart, keep us polarized. And that is what you call divide and conquer.
And that's, they want to defeat these very outside, candidates. Like Rand Paul. We always talk about Rand Paul. I'm always going to be a supporter of Rand Paul. And they dilute the message to the mainstream media. On the flip side, you have Bernie Sanders. Very socialist.
Right.
But, give him credit. He never backs down from what he really wants to speak of. And the problem is, and at least he's speaking some form of like, this is what I believe and this is what I want to have happen. The problem is that his message is ridiculous.
Right.
Because it is not viable in our form of government. It is not possible.
That brand of socialism has failed everywhere that has been tried. But you know what? You've got these yuppie, trendy people who are supporting him. They don't know their butts from a hole in the ground, and they're just supporting him because, oh, hey, it's free stuff, and we should care about each other. Well, yeah, we should care about each other, but, if you actually study what Bernie Sanders is pushing, and there's some stuff that I do like about Bernie Sanders, at least he has the guts to stand up and say, yeah, we should audit the Federal Reserve. At least he has the guts to stand up and say, yeah, we should repeal the Patriot Act.
Has the guts to say, yes, our unemployment rate is actually at 10.5% and not 3.5%. But my thing is that his form of socialism has not worked in Europe. We have Greece to look at as a prime example. Mm-hmm. It does not work in the Far East. We have China and Russia and things like in those places where it has not worked. Where they had to restructure every bit of their government. China had to restructure their economic side to a capitalist version of government, but still maintain their social control.
And a lot of that was because it was set up by Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger and George H.W. Bush, so they would be the engine of the New World Order going forward.
Exactly.
But we're actually coming up. I'm sorry, we're coming up to the end of the show.
One last thing with Bernie Sanders. The reason why people are so behind is they think, well, we haven't tried socialism here. and we're different. We're different.
Yeah, we have actually.
And we are massively in the middle of socialism, and it's failing miserably.
Anyway, that's all the time that we have. This is Frankly Speaking live here on webcast1live.com. I'm Dave Kanyuk. That's Jason Rainwater. Join us next week. Coming up in a few minutes is no, I guess not. No Faith That Works. Faith is not working this week. So, we'll catch you next week. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you later. Have a good night.